Alrighty. All right, my loves, we're going to get started here. So, welcome, whether you're in this class right now live online or you're watching it on demand, welcome and welcome into my kitchen. My name is Mel and I am the program director and co-founder for Banyan Tree Women's Collective. We are a 501c3 based out of the San Francisco Bay Peninsula, and we believe that wellness, choice, access, and experience is a human right, and that you should be able to choose things that work for you and experience them, and maybe some things work, maybe some things don't. And so today I am really excited to share something very culturally rich, very easy, and something very, very healthy for your gut and your brain and just your overall body. And that is Tepache. First, I want to start by saying that I am not a doctor. I am board certified in holistic nutrition. I am also certified in food and spirit through Dr. Deanna Minich. And I work with clients from just disease or body conditioning or could be cancer, fertility. But with me, every person is treated very unique. Everybody has a different story. Everybody has different lived experiences. And the one thing that I do know is that food and self-care, consistent, loving self-care will help everyone heal. And self-care for me looks like many things. Self-care for me is often in the kitchen. And this is something that not only makes me think of being a little girl, to where I actually had to put on something that I would wear growing up and feel really connected, feel like the little girl again. But it also sent me down the pathway of viewing through pictures through Google some of the places I used to run around in Mexico and in the south of Texas where I was born, and just reminiscing. And so I'm actually drinking my Tepache right now like I would get from the vendor on the street, which is very wasteful because it is plastic, but it reminds me of growing up. And that is very simple. It's a plastic bag with some ice. They do a rubber band around the top and they shove a straw in, and you walk around and you drink and stay hydrated. It's the simplest thing, and it just reminds me of being little. So we're going to get into this now. Let me put this somewhere safely. I'm going to do a quick couple of slides because I think it's important that you understand the roots, and you're more than welcome to ask some questions. By no means will it explain the whole history. It's a very rich history, but I want to give you just some tidbits so you feel connected to what you're making, and also recognize that this is also something that you'll see throughout, like Jamaica. They do something very similar because it's something that doesn't waste. And so if you're in poorer countries, not wasting is important. So let me get my slides on. We'll do this real quick and then we're going to make it, and you're going to be like, oh my God, that's the easiest thing ever to make. And it's fun and it smells good. So let me share my screen. Boom, boom. Okay. And that is not my screen that I want to share. Let's try this again. And why does it not want to share? Oh, technology. Okay, let's try it again. I literally just had it up. Woohoo, I did it. Perfect. All right, my dears, here we go. So let's make Tepache. And on the side, you can see the Tepache there. And you can also see this baby was made on Saturday. It smells so good. And if you look closely, it is alive. It is so many beautiful bubbles. And if you can see bubbles traveling up, It's living being, and it smells divine. And that's one thing that we're going to work with today. So here we go. Just to take a quick look, we're not going to get into this right now, but things that you would need: a glass pitcher, or a 1 gallon, preferred 1 gallon. I like to work with 1 gallon. Some people work with half gallons. Wooden spoon. You don't want to use metal, but you could use plastic as well. A sharpened chef's knife, cutting board, vegetable peeler, 1 thin kitchen towel and a cheesecloth, a rubber band or a string. Brew bottles, if you're going to do a second ferment, not mandatory. You can do the first ferment and then drink it right then and there. Second ferment gives you a little bit more kick, but totally optional. Strainer and a funnel. Your preferred organic pineapple. I like to say the magic number is 3 cloves. Cinnamon stick or 2. Filtered non-chlorinated water, piloncillo, or organic brown sugar. And optional is ginger root, some peppers, could be habanero, could be serrano, a star of anise, and actually beer too. We're going to keep it really basic today. And all these slides, I'm going to email them to you, so you'll have access to all this, so don't worry. And then I just want to give you a little history. Little story, because knowledge is power. Tepache dates back to pre-Hispanic Mexico. The name comes from the Aztec word tepiato, meaning drink made from corn or corn water. And that's because tepache originally came from corn. Tepache is not well documented due to the heavy taxation that colonizers placed on all the traditional foods and drinks when they came into Mexico. In order to protect this traditional drink, people would make it in private, home to home, and then region to region, it would vary. So there are literally hundreds of variations of tepache, some calling for additional fruits and spices, but there's always 3 consistents. It's the pineapple, the cinnamon, and the sugar. And another fun fact is, for the Mayans, tepache was a very sacred drink to which they would add different aromatics just depending on the intended medicinal use or the ceremonial use. And also with the Nahuatl people. So this is not only something that is completely used all throughout Mexico today, but this was ceremonial. So it has very, very deep roots. And we have Vivian join. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, there we go. And the benefits of the brew. It has a high content of vitamin C. It provides vitamins A and B, and it's high in minerals like magnesium. And so just connecting with the vitamin C, we all know what's going on in the world, and we all know the importance of vitamin C. So this is not only a really easy way to get that vitamin C, but you're going to boost your immunity. And right now it's great because it's hot, and this is really cooling, but this is also excellent throughout the fall and the winter because it is so nutrient rich. And magnesium, what we know with magnesium is it's involved in over 600 reactions in your body: energy creation, protein formation, gene maintenance, muscle movement, nervous system regulation. And the studies show that about 50% of Americans are deficient. So this is another easy way to boost magnesium without having to take a supplement, although I do highly suggest and support magnesium supplements if they're quality. And another benefit is it protects the microbial flora of the colon, so it gets deep down in there, which is great. It helps to fight intestinal parasites, and this contributes to good digestion. It's a probiotic. Probiotics are live bacteria and yeasts, and they benefit your brain function, weight maintenance, sleep support. I think we all know what probiotics do, and all probiotics are not equal, and probiotics are expensive. And so this, once again, is one of those easy ways to get these nutrients. And we reduce food waste because we're using the skin, we're using the core, which is typically tossed. And unlike kombucha or Jun, you don't need a SCOBY. So you're not having to buy a SCOBY, you're not having to make a SCOBY and babysit a SCOBY. And that's because of the naturally occurring yeast and bacteria on the skin of the pineapple, which is the driver of the fermentation. So I think that's pretty cool. And then on the slide before, excuse me 1 second. Let me just work my little computer here. It's giving me a hard time. Let's move this over. There we go. All right, that's better. Bear with me. I need one more screen. One more screen. So here with the phyte intestinal parasites contributing to good digestion because it contains bromelain. What is bromelain? It's a protein digestive enzyme mixture derived from the stem, the fruit, and the juice of the pineapple plant. It's been used for centuries by the indigenous people of Central and South America as a natural treatment for many ailments. It reduces pain and swelling, so osteoarthritis, sinusitis, gum disease, colitis, asthma, cardiovascular disease. It's great, it's supportive after surgery. Those are all things with inflammation and swelling and reduction of pain. It aids in optimal digestion, breaking down of foods, weight loss or management. And recent studies indicate that it's very promising in combating cancer. So bromelain is something that a lot of naturopaths will prescribe because it's just a really helpful digestive enzyme. And it is really rich in the core of a pineapple. And what do you know about pineapples? People always take out the core, and that drives me crazy. And people will say, well, it's really tough. It is tough, but you got to think now there's fiber. You're getting fiber, you're getting bromelain. Don't waste that. That is such a core part of it. And I know like pineapple upside down cakes and all that stuff, they take the core out, but keep the core, blend it down, use it in a smoothie. If you can't chew it, don't waste it. And then just quickly, piloncillo versus brown sugar. So piloncillo, it's often referred to as Mexican brown sugar. And then there's regular brown sugar, which most of you are probably really aware of. And so they're very different. Brown sugar is refined white sugar that then has molasses put into it, and that just gives it the darker color. Piloncillo is completely unrefined. You're just taking the sugarcane juice, boiling it down, caramelizing it, right? And then they put it in these fun little molds. This is translates to little loaf. So piloncillo is a little loaf. If you're familiar with jaggery or muscovado, those are very similar. Now in Latin America, you'll hear panela. And here's where it's kind of funny because to Mexicans, panela is queso, it's cheese. But if you're in a Latin American store, you'll find panela, and it can be liquid. It can be, can I use coconut sugar? Try it. Try it. I have not used it before. I'd be interested to see what happens. Try it and let me know. I'm always wondering, about playing with these, and then use that jaggery too with it. So if you aren't familiar with piloncillo, if you've had Mexican flan, if you've had atole, if you've had champurrado or cafe de olla, which are very traditional desserts and drinks, then you've had piloncillo because it has a very burnt caramel smokiness to it. It's very natural. It tastes very different from regular brown sugar. Now, if you can only do this because you only have brown sugar, still do it. But try to find some piloncillo because I guarantee you'll appreciate the difference in taste. I know I do. All right. We're going to pause there and we're going to get started. And so the other thing that I ask you is if you are going to use Peninsula, or if you're going to use Mexican limes, try to go to a Latin or a Mexican grocery store because they can definitely use your support. I know you could probably find it in other places, and I've been in some bougier grocery stores and I've seen canned Tepache for like $4 a can, and it drives me crazy because I can do this whole thing for $4 and have jars of it. So if you need access to stores in the Bay Area, I can tell you where to go. Now, let's get started. So what I showed you before was I made this batch on Saturday. It literally, I did it like in my pajamas when my coffee was being made. And you put it off to the side, and then boom, I've got a gallon of deliciousness. And so I just want everybody to look. And as I touch it, you can see the bubbles going up. This one's very active. And my house has not been as warm. The whole house will smell divine. And this is what you're going to have in a couple of days. Depending on the light and the heat in your house, you're going to be finished with your first ferment. It could be 2 days, maybe 4. The trick is watching it, because once you go past a point, it becomes vinegar. And then you can use it for, well, vinegar. You can use it for dressings and marinades, but we're not going to get there yet. Now, if you do get there, don't get discouraged, because I have made a giant batch of vinegar before because I forgot about it for 1 day too many. All right, so wash your hands, get your cutting board, and get your lovely unwashed pineapple. Okay. I'm going to get my wooden spoon. I'm going to use this fancy wooden spoon because my regular wooden spoon got broke. So what we don't want to do is scrub this down and be paranoid about germs, because we want what's on the outside of it. That's where the goodness is. So go ahead and just take the top and go to your sink and just gently run some water on it. Use your hand to wipe it off. Now, of course, if there's a giant cobweb, pull it off, but don't scrub it. Okay, we're just rinsing it off. Okay, go rinse it off. Treat it like a baby and tell it thank you, because it's about to give you lots of nutrients. And if you want to wipe it off, you can blot it with a towel, clean towel, of course, or some paper towels. I just do a quick blot. I will tell you, last month, my nightmare, which I'll share one of my nightmares with you. One of my nightmares is getting fruit and it having a creature growing in it from wherever it came from. So I always do look inside my pineapples and make sure that there's no creatures, because I had got some really beautiful bananas that were from Ecuador, and I went to touch it, and I touched a little pouch, and spider ran out. So be careful of what's inside. And then once again, I'm going to give you all the slides, so don't worry about it. So, okay, I have no creatures here. So now I'm just going to lay it on its side as I say that, and something falls out of it. What is that? Okay. It's not a creature, so that's good. All right. Lay it on its side, and we're just going to take the top off. Chop right down on the top. It's very simple. Now, some people will take this, put it in a pot of a little bit of soil, and they will grow more pineapples. For most of us in this area, we could probably get away with it. When it gets cold, we would need to bring it inside, but people have been very successful where they literally didn't want to waste any of it. So that can be something fun you can try. Outside of that, if you're not going to try to regrow it, this is the one part that we are going to get rid of, as well as the end. Take the end off. And in the end, you have taken just this little bit, and we are not going to use this. I'm not growing any pineapples right now. So if you want to grow pineapples, I would love to see you grow your pineapple. All right, so we've got our pineapple. Now, when I buy pineapple, I need to gauge when I'm going to actually use it. So if I know I'm going to use it immediately, then I want a ripe pineapple because I want the sugar content in the fruit for the ferment. Now, if you're like, it's Monday and I'm going to go to the store now, but I can't do this until Friday, get a greener pineapple so it doesn't turn. So this one's pretty juicy. It's pretty sweet. Now, if you have a funny little spot there where it's really kind of had its day, don't worry about it. We're still going to use it. So switch this back down. And now I'm going to show you two different ways. So I'm going to cut mine in half. Don't cut yours in half, but I'm going to show you two different ways that this can be done. So we're going to pretend that this is a whole pineapple and this is a whole pineapple. So you can do it this way, where you take the whole pineapple and you just go straight down and you're going to leave skin on there, flesh. So it's real quick, as if you were just removing the skin. Now, usually when you're cutting a pineapple for like dessert or something, you try to not have any flesh on here. But for tepache, we do want some flesh. So it's just a real rough, messy cut. And then you're going to have the rest of your pineapple. The other way I've seen people do this, which is not the way I was raised doing it, but I see lots of people do it, is if you plan on using the whole inside of the fruit with your ferment, then you can literally, and remember, pretend this is a whole pineapple, you can literally just cut it and then just cut it. So those are two ways. So this way would be if you're going to only use some of the flesh for the tepache and some of the flesh to eat it for dessert or whatever. And then this is the way if you're just going to use the whole thing, quick chop. So you can pick which way you want to chop it. All right, let's talk about, does it make a difference with fermentation? No. So pineapple, so the belief is because when Mexico was colonized, like I said, they took all of the religious practices, which were not Catholic. They took all of our desserts and our liquors and our exotic fruits and they taxed them. And so pineapple didn't grow in every part around the year. So it was expensive. It was hard to get. So a lot of people, they believe a lot of people would want to use the flesh for dessert or for snack. And so they would either choose to only use the skins and then use the fruit for other dishes to make it, go further. Or maybe you were doing better than other people then and you just use the whole thing in there. More sugar content is going to give you more fermentation, right? So it's really your choice. I've people ask about like diabetes, and it does not affect you in the same way. I know if we ate like a whole pineapple, it would mess with our blood sugar, but when we're fermenting, it doesn't affect us in the same way, right? The sugar is being used as that activator with the bacteria to create that low alcohol content. So there is low alcohol. Another question I get is, I've had some people that were alcoholics and they do not partake in anything that could cause them to trigger and drink. 90% of the people, because it's so low, it does not affect them. But that is something to think about if you have somebody that is abstaining for alcohol, maybe from alcoholism, that you might want to warn them. It is so minute, but there is a low level of alcohol because of the fermentation. So it's just something to think about. So you're going to get to choose what you want to do today, and that leads us to jars. So my wife knows I'm the collector of all the jars. So not everybody has, gallon jar. So maybe you have a half-gallon jar. I don't even know what size this is, but it's not a half gallon. It's a little less. The beautiful thing about this is you don't really have to have specific measurements. So whatever jar you're going to use or pitcher is your choice. I'm going to make 2 more here, and then I'm going to be drowning in, if anybody wants Tepache, because I'm going to have way too much Tepache for my own good. So I'm going to actually use the half gallon, and then I'm going to use my trusty gallon. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I have enough of everything here. So pick your jar, your choice. Now, here's where it gets really complicated. We're going to warm up some filtered water. Okay, so if you've got water, get it warmed up. I'm going to use my tea kettle, and I'm going to let my tea kettle get warm, but I'm not going to let it boil. And if you let it boil, it's okay, because we can cool it down with ice cubes. Not worried about it. There's been many times where I've looked at this pineapple on my island in the kitchen going, oh my God, I forgot to do it. I got to do it real quick. And used boiling water and cooled it down with ice. So it'll be okay. And you only want maybe like 2 cups. I'm not a big measurer. You just want enough so when we put the sugar in, it can start to dissolve it. So maybe like a cup or 2. If you have a question, you can unmute yourself too. That's fine. I love this. I see everybody running around. Now, I'll tell you, I have attempted kombucha a couple times. I made some June tea, which was actually really good, but it was so labor intensive. And so this is so simple. It's ridiculously simple. And I wanted to teach the class because when I started to see it canned and bottled in grocery stores, like I said, for like $3 and $4 a can, it absolutely blew my mind. There's no need to spend that money. And of course, everything tastes better when it's at home. So I've got some nice warm water, and I'll show you using my half. I'm just gonna pour some water in. I'll do about right there. And I'm gonna take my cone, or if you're using just brown sugar, you can start with a packed cup of brown sugar. And I'm gonna drop that in and start to let it get warm. And then I'm going to assist it and break it up with my wooden spoon. Okay, so I said I'm going to do a gallon one as well too. I don't know, last Christmas during the pandemic, I ran around the neighborhood and gave everybody in the neighborhood ponche and navarino. And maybe this time I'll run around and give everybody tepache because I don't have enough space for it. All right, so you can see my water starting to change colors. Like I said, it's not rocket science. We're just warming up some sugar and water. Now, you may be like, oh, wait a minute. You're showing me this big gallon that you made, and in the items you said 1 cone of piloncillo or brown sugar, but now you're using a small one. So should I cut it in half? I say no. the sugar's just gonna, it's just gonna boost the fermentation. And actually, in this one I just showed you, I tested it with 2 of these large cones, which I normally do 1. And I wonder if that's why I've got such amazing fermentation right now. Like it's stunning. So you can play with the flavor profile of the sweetness. And then guess what? If you make a whole batch and it's too sweet for you, which doesn't normally happen, you can dilute it with a good soda water. So, and still get all the benefits. Okay. So now I've got my big one, and I'm going to do just one of the cones in here. I'm going to cover it. Yep, that's good. All right. Okay. It's nice and caramel, golden. If you put it in there, get a nice whiff. And I want you to like smell that. There's the smokiness, there's the caramel. It's just a very different smell. It smells like Mexico. Okay. Beautiful. And here's my gallon, and it's doing its thing too. And so something else, and remember, like I told you, people were doing it in private from home to home and region to region. So there are some people that will boil it. I don't know how I feel about that, and I'm not questioning ancient traditions, but I just feel like boiling all of it might kill off some of the good stuff. So, you know, I prefer to do it with cooler water. And so now you can see I'm really brown. That's a beautiful, beautiful color. So I can do a couple things here. I can take my wooden spoon and kind of break up the sugar cone if I want, or I can really just leave it like this because it will dissipate on its own. Totally your choice. And this one, beautiful brown, really brown, gorgeous. Oh, it smells so good. Okay, how are you guys doing? Do you got your sugar in there? You got some melting. Oh, good job. I can't see yours. I think I see yours. You guys are dark jars, but I can see it. Oh, perfect. Oh, perfect, Karina. Yeah, looks good. Looks good. All right. So now that we have that, like I said, you can choose to break down your sugar, or you can be like, I'm good. And now I'm going to just make the rest of my tepache. So like I said, I have a thing. I worry about killing some of those fragile bacteria with water that's too hot. So what you can do are a couple things. You can add some ice cubes, which I've done, or I've just topped with filtered room temperature or cold water to fill it up, not all the way, about halfway. So we're taking down the temperature of the heat. Now, my whole house is filtered, so that's why I'm using stuff from my sink. If your house isn't filtered, you should buy filtered water for this. That's still pretty warm, so I'm going to also add ice cubes in a minute. So, gentle reminder, when we're dealing with glass and heat, adding ice, what can happen? Your glass can shatter, so be careful. Don't dump a whole bunch of ice in. And I say that because I've done it way too many times on my own. And we're not looking for it to be ice cold, but if you just heard that, I just put it in there and it cracked pretty loud, so it's still pretty warm. So if we weren't here teaching the class, I would probably do this part and then go do something else for like 30 minutes and then come back if I wanted to let it naturally cool down. But I just added some ice in there with the water That was room temp. And now I've got a nice, good, safe temp. It feels good. This large jar is still pretty hot, so I'm going to add some ice cubes just to bring it down. Woohoo! All right, I just made an ice cube mess. All right, how we feeling about our water temperature? Feeling good? Yeah? Okay. Good, Viv? Good. Okay, good. Okay, perfect. All right, so now it gets really difficult. We're going to take our skins and we're going to put them in the jar. Oh, I'm going to cut that one. I've honestly never used a half gallon, so I'm really curious to see how this works. Sit them in there. I think that'll fit. That got tight quick. And I am going to take a little bit of this fruit. Since I'm splitting one pineapple between a half gallon and a gallon, I definitely want to have some extra sweetness in there and that sugar. I'm going to pop those in there. All right. I'm going to do my other jar here.
Hey, Mel.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
So I don't really know. My jar is really big. I think it's bigger than the jars that you have. But I'm just wondering, do I need to kind of like have, like have it come to the top? Does it matter if there's a
Not
ton
right
of
now.
space? Okay.
Not right now. Just
okay.
So
I guess my question is, how much water am I looking at putting in there?
So this is a gallon jar. It looks like you have a gallon jar, right?
I think so. I don't know. I've had it a long time.
Yeah, that's a gallon jar, and this is a gallon jar, and so this looks really full, but
yeah,
this was a pretty small pineapple because that's all I could find.
okay.
So it's not necessarily about the size of the pineapple or the amount of skin. It'll still work no matter what. You're still going to get a fermentation. You're using what I normally use. I have never used a small jar before.
Okay.
I always make large batches. And so go ahead and put your pineapple in. There's my second jar. Okay. Now, what did I say the three mains were? They are your pineapple, your piloncillo, and cinnamon. Those are, no matter what you do, those are your three. That's the holy trinity for this. So get some cinnamon sticks, and it is preferred stick. Now, if you don't have a stick and you need to use powder, go ahead. I will tell you, I order sticks in bulk and I keep them stored. They store well. Sticks will always be better than powder. So I really like cinnamon, so I do 2 or 3 sticks for a large jar. I'm going to put 3 in my large. And because I like cinnamon, I'm going to put 2 in this smaller jar. I'm going to see what happens. Okay. So we've got the holy trinity, right? We've got the pineapple, we've got the sugar, and we've got the cinnamon. So now here's where certain areas of the country swear that there are 4 main ingredients, and that is the addition of cloves. I have never had it without cloves, but lots of people do. So since that's the way I learned, I'm going to add the cloves because we know spices equal health. So why not? So I'm going to do, since I'm doing 2 jars, I'm going to have a spicy profile, and then I'm going to have a more, spice with like heat. One of them I'm going to put a serrano pepper in. And the other one, I want more traditional, but I'm going to add ginger and some lime. So Here's where you get to decide the profile. I highly suggest adding clove because I think it's lovely, regardless. But if you don't want to, you don't have to because you've done the main three, which is how we get the base, regardless. So I'm going to do in my little jar, I'm going to do 3 cloves. And because I swear clove needs to happen no matter what, in my big jar, I'm going to put 2 cloves because in my big jar, I'm going to add half a serrano pepper.
Melissa, can you just repeat how much these cloves you add to the, because I was disrupted by a phone call.
That's fine.
How much of the
So what are you using, a half gallon or a gallon?
half gallon?
Okay. So I would say start with 1 or 2 cloves and see how you like it.
Okay.
And if you're like, ooh, I really like the clove, then maybe next time you can use 3 or 4. The thing is the clove can sometimes overpower, so I try to keep it in that sweet spot of like 2 or 3. But like I said, for my little one, I'm going to do the more traditional. So I did 3 cloves. My big one, because I'm going to add a serrano pepper, I only did 2 cloves because I like the clove in it no matter what. But once again, what matters is that you have the piloncillo, the pineapple, and the cinnamon. Those are the 3 mains.
So I have a question. My cloves are like really small. I'm not sure if I have the right cloves.
All cloves are small, sweetie. Does your cloves look like this?
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay,
They're
okay.
Cloves are so potent. All cloves look like that. They're all like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. So another thing that a lot of regions will use is the star of anise, which is that licorice taste. So God, this smells good. In my more traditional profile, without the heat, the pepper heat, I am going to add 1 star of anise. If you don't like licorice, don't use it. Now, regardless, I love ginger in anything and everything, and you can eat it raw. So I am going to choose to put about a thumb of ginger in both of mine. Now, you can do a couple things because there is a belief, there's a couple different beliefs. There's a belief that there is some bad bacteria on the outside and that you need to scrape it. And there's some people that believe you can keep the skin and it's just an additional bacteria. I tend to keep the skin if I know that I've bought organic, and I only buy organic. So good eggs, which if you're watching this, I know you guys are in the Bay, but if you're watching this afterwards and on demand and you live in the Bay Area, Good Eggs Company, I get bulk of my limes, my organic limes, and I get bulk of organic turmeric, and I get bulk of organic ginger from them, which is really nice. Or I get it at the farmer's market when I can. So your choice. You can take the outside layer off, or you can keep it on. You have more choices. You can just plop it in there whole if you don't have time. You can roughly chop it, or you can grate it. You get to choose which way you want to do it. I am going to leave the skin on, and I'm going to roughly chop it. That's my choice today. I have done the grating, and you do get a nice, I feel like that batch had a really nice oomph of ginger. Now, if you don't like ginger, don't use it. Remember, you're just going for your 3 mains, and that's your base. My goodness, it smells good. And put the ginger in there. All right. If anyone is using a pepper, think about what kind of pepper you got. Think about how much heat you can handle, and then choose wisely. Okay. I'm going to use a serrano, and and I'm going to use half of it. I am going to keep the seeds in mine. Just be careful. If you're using a habanero or ghost pepper, be careful. But ooh, it smells good. So I've got my original one. It's got the anais, it's got extra cinnamon, it's got the cloves, chopped ginger, and here's my more spicy one. So no anais, less clove, got a good amount of cinnamon, and now I'm going to pop half of that serrano in there. So there is some parts of Mexico that will do banana peel. And I tried it once. It was not my thing. I think maybe I left it a little too long. It was a little too slimy for me. But you can really get into playing with some really interesting, essentially scraps is what's being used. So maybe something down the road for you. Another thing to think about is when people want to push this and make it happen much faster, and they want a higher alcohol content, they would now take the step of adding a single beer onto the top. And then the thing is you got to watch it, because in about 12 to 15 hours, you could potentially be at your max ferment before it goes into vinegar. And that's through tasting it and looking at it. Like this one that I showed you guys, there's a whole bunch of activity. If I let this go one more day, it will become vinegar. All right. We doing okay? Perfect. So I got my regular one that's got the anais, and it's just more traditional. And then I've got this one that's going to have a hell of a kick with the serrano. And I'm actually going to add a chopped lime into the one with the serrano, just for the hell of it, actually. It's just calling to me. And of course, we know we want the skin. All right, so you're going to have some space left. I don't have a whole bunch of space here. I got a good amount of space here. And all I'm going to do is leave room. Let me sit this down. I'm going to leave enough room for it to bubble and do its thing. So I'm going to go ahead and take the lid off of this one. And so I'd say I left about an inch here. And then, of course, the neck, because you don't want it all the way up here in bubbles. So if we look inside, and this is something I want you to see if you're not used to this, nothing is wrong with this. This is good. This is a good sign. This is my fermenting. Even if you had a little funny slight color, you could scoop it off, but this is good. So if you in a day or two are like, oh my God, I have bubbles, what am I going to do? That's good. Like, you're fermenting. You'll be able to see all the activity, all the bubbles coming up. And I guarantee you tonight, you're going to start to see activity. So don't freak out. That's the way it's supposed to be. So go ahead and fill the remainder up with water. Leaving about that inch of body, and then leaving the neck of the container free. Boom. Okay. So here's my gallon. So I left about an inch, and then I leave my neck. This one is almost there. I barely need to add anything. Okay, I'm good on there. And now we can talk about lids, because this is it. It is, if we weren't talking step by step, you could throw this together in 15 minutes. Minus the hot water, which can take a moment to cool down. So let's talk about lids. So you noticed when I pulled the lid off of this was my little cloth and rubber band. I recently tried a seal top, and I actually had really good success with it. But what you want to be careful of is after you've let it sit there for a day or even two, pressure builds up. And I don't want you to have any kind of accidents or get startled. So I will close it, and then I will set a little booby trap to where if a bunch of buildup happened, it wouldn't burst. So I'm just putting an extra layer of protection over it. So when I check this one in a day or two, and I know Vivian's jar is dark, so I always use clear so I can easily see. So when you're opening, you don't have a seal top, so that's good. But if you were to have a dark one, it'd be harder to see. So when you go and check it, just be really gentle about keeping your hand over it. As I locked it in here, gently removing it, keeping your hand firm, giving the pop, and it'll go, and then slowly opening it. And that's just to be safe. Very rarely does it really build up that big that you're going to have an explosion. But if you've ever brewed beer or anything and had a mistake, it's a mess to clean up. So my main way, whether I'm using something this size or this size, is to take muslin cloth or a milk bag, clean, cover over the top because it will attract those nasty little gnats, and then put your rubber band around it. And then I just pull it up so I can always see what's happening on the inside. All right, so choose whether you're going to use your lid. And if it's a lid, it's got to have a tight seal. Or you're going to do your cloth and let the air come in, and you're regulating, making sure that those buggies don't go in there. All right, so we're going to use this one for the second ferment. And then I'm going to cover this one. I'm going to use my little cloth. My God, it smells so good. Okay. Now, what's going to happen from here? You're going to find an indirect light. You don't want an indirect sunlight. You could even put it in a dark cabinet if you wanted to. That will take longer. I like to leave it, which literally we'll usually see ours brewing over here in the corner. So a couple things. This means that we always see it and we don't forget about it. It also still gives it some light activity, and it means I'm going to get my brew in a couple of days. So
you put it under the skylight?
I don't put it under the skylight. If you are, just keep an eye on it because it could potentially brew in a day. Because the more sun, the faster. So I don't like to put it in the dark because I don't want it to take, because a couple things, because I might forget about it. And then I don't want it to take, 5 or 6 days. For me, my sweet spot is usually 2 to 4 days before I risk it turning into vinegar, because I know the temperature of my house and my lighting, and you'll figure that out. So you're going to put that away, and then we're going to blink our eyes and we're going to jump to like 2 or 3 days. Actually, we're going to go back. So tonight you're going to walk by it and you're going to look and you're going to see if you got any action going on. And you're going to tap it and you'll probably move it. And then you'll see some bubbles come up and you'll be like, oh, cool, I've got activity. Something's happening. And tomorrow you might, if you're using the cloth cover, you will probably smell that lovely, like tropical smell. And so you go over tomorrow and look at it and you may have some bubbles. Cool. Now, let's see, it's Wednesday, Friday. If your house is pretty regulated, Friday, I would take either a wooden spoon or a plastic spoon or a glass straw or paper straw, and I would, oh my God, that's good. Taste it. That's a really good batch. Okay. I would taste it. And so it tastes really good. It definitely does not taste vinegary. I can see bubbles. I can see activity. It's a really strong, lovely smell. Maybe you want to go into your second ferment, or maybe you just want to drink it like that. So if you go Friday, I'm going to let it go one more day. Now we're looking at Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Now we're on 3 days. Look at it. Ooh, there's a whole bunch of bubbles. Okay, something's happening. Taste it. Stronger taste, not vinegar. You can decide. Do you want to push it one more day? Or do you want to go ahead and drink it? Or do you want to bottle and do a second ferment? You can choose. This time of year, no more. I think going into 4 days is when you risk it turning into vinegar. So it's quick. Like, you don't have to sit here and babysit it, but you do want to look at it. Ooh, pretty. Ooh, smells good. Ooh. Now, you're ready to drink it. You're ready to take it out of the jar. You're either going to choose to jar it up, put it directly into your fridge and start drinking it, or you're going to choose to do a second ferment to make it even more effervescent. Both ways are fine. Both ways are totally fine. So, no matter what you do, you're going to drain it, right? So, I'm going to show you second ferment because once we drain it, put it into a sealed jar, you can enjoy it. It will have its kick. It will have some of the bubbles, but it won't be super, super bubbly. But that's okay. Still fantastic. But that's easy, right? Put it in the fridge, boom, you're done. Here's when you do a second ferment. So you're going to decide what kind of jars you want to use. Once again, I like to reuse jars. So I think this is IKEA for $2. This was Trader Joe's ginger that I've, used many years now. These are the brew bottles that I will have on the slides. You can order these. I've had this pack for years, use them all the time. Because I'm running low on space, because I've made a ton of this, and I'm about to have a ton more, I'm going to actually put this into a growler. So I'm saving space. But for you, you're probably going to want to put it in separate bottles. It's nice to have these because you can take the bottle with you and enjoy it. And they're a smaller footprint. You can store, like we have a big bottle stored in the wine cooler right now, and then we'll keep a bottle in the refrigerator. So you can choose what works for you. So I'm going to drain this in to my mesh. Okay. Now here's where you can use a metal strainer, but you don't want to use metal inside. It can disrupt it. And I never had a problem until a couple weeks ago when I was testing a second ferment off of a one batch. And I'm going to go into that in just a second. And I got brave and I stuck a metal spoon in there and I tasted it and I said, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I woke up 8 hours later and I had black mold all over it. Literally like that. I introduced something it didn't like and I lost it. Lesson learned. That was my second ferment off of one batch, and I'm going to tell you about that in a second. But when we're funneling it, it's okay to use a metal. So whatever size jar you're going to use, like I said, I'm going to use the big one. And it always comes into this beautiful golden color. Drain. I'm going to keep this fruit in here. I'm going to put this back in. I'm going to put that back in. There's a couple cloves here. I'm going to put that back in. I'm going to finish filling this. Just for the sake of it, I'm going to show you in these regular brew bottles. Now, you do not want to go all the way to the top. You want to make sure, and you can see all the bubbles coming up. See that? That's alive. It's beautiful. So I'm going to let this settle a little bit, and then I'm going to maybe put like maybe another inch in. Okay, I'm going to stop there. All right, and here's why. I can finish this one off in here. Oh, perfect. All right, so that filled the growler and one of these. All right, I'm going to leave space here for the second ferment. Put my cap on, and I can never do this right. Here we go. Make sure it's down in the middle. Push it down. You're going to leave this space. Now this foam is going to go down. We're going to leave at least, I like 2 inches. Because as you do your second ferment, you bottle up all of your goodness. And once again, making sure that tight seal is on. And now these are going to go into a darker corner or in the pantry, because I want them just to sit there and get really excited and create a bunch of tension inside. So I'm going to put this second ferment in the pantry. It only has a light on when we go in there. I'm going to put it in for 2 days. I'm going to put my alarm to check it in 2 days. In 2 days, when I go back, when we open it, we're going to open it over a sink, and we're going to open it with our hands secure, and we're going to check for the air, and it should give you a nice big burp. You can even check it 1 full day after, and if you feel like you've got a big then you know you've got an extra kick of that fermentation and it's pretty strong, and you can go ahead and then put it in your refrigerator if you want. I like to usually let it sit for 2 days. So the second ferment bottles goes into the dark cabinet, 2 days. I'm going to test it here for that nice, and then I will decide, do I want to go 1 more day? Probably not. I have done 3 days second ferment, but 2 days is usually the sweet spot. You're just wanting it to, like I said, you're wanting it to create more activity inside and just give you that bigger punch of effervescence. So I'm going to move these. Now, another thing you want to do is to label everything. Like you saw that I had this dated, because it's real easy to make something and go, when did I make that? So label your bottles with the date, second ferment, this date, and then put in your calendar, check the second ferment. Pull the second ferment out of the pantry, go to your sink and open it over the sink. Do not test it inside your pantry. Okay, it can be a big mess. So let me put this away. All right, so we're running low on time, so I'm going to kind of move quickly here and I can answer your questions. Now, if we want to make our dollar stretch even more, you can push a second ferment with this same set. You want to add another cup of brown sugar or piloncillo. Refill with In this time, you're not going to do the boiling water. So you're going to do a room temp filtered water, seal it. And because you didn't do the warm water to kind of get the peel and seal moving, fill it up, cover it, and then maybe in about 30 minutes, an hour, take that wooden spoon, go in and stir it around and just distribute the sugar, seal it back up, and you start your first ferment again with the used products. Now, there's talk that sometimes the second one goes faster, so all you need to do is look at it, check for the bubbles, check for the activity, the smell, do a taste test. Some people say it happens in 24 hours. For me, it's between the 42 to 72 hour mark. But I do feel like the second does go faster for some reason, maybe because it's already got some activity in it. But it's great because you're using, I love when I can boil tea bag a second time. Like, I love when I get to use things multiple times. So know that you can do a second ferment. Now, if you don't want to do a second ferment and you've got plenty, compost it and you're good. Okay. I am not going to do a second ferment because I don't need any more in this household. So I'm going to set this aside. Do you have any questions before I tell you about cocktails? And we're going to do that real quick.
Hey, Mel, I just have one quick question for you. Before you do the second ferment, I know you mentioned that day 4 it can turn to vinegar. Is there a risk of that happening during the second ferment, or is it kind of just going through its own process? Cool.
You've kind of shut it down, and now it's like all the players are in there, and now they're just kind of fighting it out and creating that effervescence. So it's really just kind of pushing it a little bit further, but you're not going to risk the vinegar. So it's new for me. And let me back up. So something I do need to share is the one that is sealed with the metal. You want to burp that one. And here's why. So this one has access to air coming in, right? And kind of pushing everything around and being like, hey, let's make some tepache. Come on. This one doesn't. So you want to burp it tomorrow. If you're using a seal, keep that on, cover your hand. Quick little burp, little air. I didn't pull it all the way up, just enough for the air to come in. And that's how fast it happened. Okay, look. It's already producing. This is the one we just made. So when I just burped it, I got a burp from it. It happens that fast. So if you close it off, give it a little bit of air, just once a day, that's fine. This one, I'm probably going to see, for me, I feel like I see more activity when it has access to air going in. But once again, it depends on the climate of your house, depends on the lighting. You're going to figure out what works for you. I'm glad I remembered that. Let's see if this one's got, yeah, even this one. It's already starting. So yours are probably going to be pretty active.
Can I just confirm that, like, after we made this, after a few days, we can test it and we can actually drink it, right? Because we don't have to do the second one.
You do not have to do the second ferment. You can drink it. You can seal it up in containers or jars, and put it in some mason jars and put it in your refrigerator.
Okay.
You do not
we will
have to do the
just
second ferment.
refrigerator. Huh? We will just drain it and then just put it in the refrigerator and drink it. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and what I would do for you is drain it. If you're not going to do a second use to create a first ferment, like if you're not going to put more sugar and you're going to compost it and then pour it back into your container and seal on that mason lid and put it in your refrigerator. So that is perfectly fine. Lots of people do that. I like the bubbles, so I always do a second ferment because I like that kick of effervescence, additional effervescence. And you're going to figure out what you like. And you know what? If you have just one jar, maybe you're going to keep some and drink it. And maybe you're going to test just playing with a jar and seeing what a second ferment looks like for you. I didn't always do a second ferment, but when I started doing it, I was like, oh, I like this extra kick of effervescence. This is so like at your will for what you like. You're still getting all the benefits. You're still getting the probiotic. You're still getting everything. It's just, do you want to take it into a second ferment? And that's your choice. Free will. You get to see what you like. Same thing with the profiles. You're going to figure out what you like and have fun with it. Okay. Any other questions? No? Sweet. So you can drink this anytime. There is a big belief of drinking it in the morning really kickstarts the metabolism, and some abuelas will swear that it will help you lose weight. You can have it in the morning, you can have it at night, you can have it in the middle of the day, anytime. It's not going to keep you up. You're not going to get drunk off of it. But if you want to, here's where I step in. So you can do a series of things. I like two things: a simple highball, a Tepache highball, or a Tepache and beer. And so this will take 2 minutes. Okay, so a highball. I'm going to take half a lime. I'm going to go around my rim. And you're getting a recipe for this. And this is optional, but I love tahine, and I'm going to dip my rim in tahine. I'm going to take some mint, and I'm going to take a lot because I like mint. And I can either hand tear it, or I could just throw the leaf in. But I like mint. I like the effervescence. Then I'm going to go ahead and put a little ice in mine. Very simple. This is some Tepache I made. This is actually the last of it. I made it a couple months ago. And of course, reused cider bottle. And I gave you measurements, but I don't measure. So I'm going to just give my first layer of Tepache. I'm going to decide, do I want to use bourbon? Do I want to use tequila? Do I want to use mezcal? Do I want to use rum? Rum sounds good. So I'm going to use a nice dark rum. Could be any kind of rum, white rum, your choice. Once again, I don't measure, but I know what a shot looks like, and add a shot. And then for my next trick, I'm going to add a really good amount of soda. Topo Chico. Pour it on top. If you want something that is a little sweeter, Karina, I know you like your sweet, then you can add agave nectar. Add some agave or simple syrup if you want. I like to taste my booze, and I like to taste the Tepache, and I don't like a lot of sugar. Mix my mint around. Oh my God, that's so good. Sorry, y'all. That's really good. And then if you do the tajin on the side, when you drink it, you get that nice chile limon. It is so refreshing. You saw how fast it was to throw it together. And then if you don't want the alcohol, do the whole recipe without the alcohol. And it's super easy. Next thing, this is very traditional, is tepache and beer. And it is literally that simple. Good Mexican beer. I would typically do Victoria or Modelo Especial. And just to be a little bougie, put the beer in the wine cup, add your tepache in. Squeeze a lime. And there you go. And this is really interesting because the beer comes through, and then all of a sudden this wave of a little bit of clove and the piña just finishes it off. So it's almost like a beer champagne. And these are really simple things. If you're making tacos, if you're grilling, these are great summer or winter drinks. And you can use it with something you made all by yourself. Like it's yours. It's from scratch. So these are my 2 cocktails, which I guess this is kind of like my dinner right now, y'all. Both very, very different, but both really flavorful. And yes, beer has more calories and carbs. This is definitely a lot lighter. And then it would be even lighter if I used a Blanco tequila. I did use dark rum, so there's definitely more sugar in it, which is why I didn't add the agave in here. But if you wanted just a spritzer, you would do the lime, the tepache, the soda, and then you could add some agave in there if you wanted something during the day. And that's what I got for y'all. It's very easy. I would love to hear how your batches are coming alive. And then if you have questions or if something happens and you're like, is this okay? Is this safe? Shoot me a picture of it and I'll let you know. Chances are it's very normal. I'm going to send my slides to you, and that will have just some tips on there. It will have the step-by-step. You're going to do this, and then you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this. And then if you want a second ferment, you're going to do this. So it'll give you step-by-step, and then, yeah, that's it.
Is it going to have the cocktail recipe?
And the cocktail recipe is on the slides, too.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, just the highball, but the tepache and beer is just tepache and beer and a twist of lime. You just want to choose a good Mexican beer. It's not really good with, it doesn't taste right with other beers to me, so you do want a light Mexican beer, in my opinion, but everybody has their own flavor profile. Yeah, how do we feel about our batches? Are we good? Yeah?
Excited.
Okay.
Bubble.
Yeah. No, I've got so much activity right now. So once again, everybody in the neighborhood's getting tepache this week, or we're going to drink a whole bunch of it in the house. But I do have a whole bottle of rum, so we'll see what happens. All right, guys, if you have any questions, just message me, and happy tepache making. And let me see pictures. I want to see pictures, or tag us on Instagram or email it to us. And I'll show you pictures of mine. And I'll also take a little video when I test the second ferment, just to let you see and hear if you choose to do it. On the slides, the bottles that I use, the link is there, so you can order those if you want to have them. And happy fermenting. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.